Workforce Development Board meeting, Wednesday, May 16, 2012. We're meeting a half an hour early, and maybe somebody didn't get the message. We still do not have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and just not do the vote. So, new board member, Diane.
Rachel Hurley is joining us today. Rachel, would you like to say a few words? Rachel's taking the place of Jean Logan as the nonprofit section representative on the state board. Jean's term ended at the end of April, and the governor's office appointed Rachel to that position.
And I thank you all for the opportunity to be here. As just a background on who I am and hopefully what I'll bring to this table. I have experience with the Farm Credit System. I was a financial officer in southern Iowa for about 8 years. I was part of a family farming operation, row crop, cow calf, on a retail store. Moved to Michigan, went to law school at Michigan State. While there, worked for the Farm Credit, also worked for the Attorney General's office, doing legislative relations and statewide projects. Came back here, and I've been with the Biotech Association, I guess, almost 2 years now. Spent yesterday at the STEM Council, so I've been working closely on the educational side of things, trying to figure out what we do here to get our kids in the jobs we want to stay in the rural communities. And this dovetails perfectly with that. It's from the biotech industry component of my job, constantly working with our company, saying, what do you need? What do you want? How can we help? And one of those prominent answers is we need workforce. We need good, skilled people, and we want them to be Iowans. So when this opportunity came up, my board was elated. I got responses back almost instantaneous that this would be a great opportunity. So thank you for the privilege, and I look forward to learning a lot. It seems this encompasses quite a wide array of things that go on. So.
Okay, and I think it would be nice for us to just go around the table and down the walls so you get a
I would appreciate that.
thumbnail sketch.
I've been stalking you online. It'd be nice.
Then there'll be a quiz later.
Oh, great. Well, get ready.
Okay, Joe, do you want to start?
I'm Joe Burvin, legal counsel with Iowa Workforce Development.
Ed Wallace, Deputy Director, Iowa Workforce Development.
I'm Lisa Castillo. I'm the Director's Assistant.
I'm Sally Fogg. I'm the Executive Director of the O-Line Chamber and Area Development. With most of my responsibilities are economic development, and I'm also the Regional Chair for the Arwood. So,
welcome. I'm Andy Roberts. I'm the Business Manager with Lumber and Steamers Local 33 here in Des Moines, Iowa.
Hi, I'm David Mitchell. I'm the Administrator at Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services.
I'm Greg Lewis. I'm the Council Representative with Aspen, Iowa. I'm representing labor.
Bill Capel with the Iowa Economic Development Authority, and I represent Director Johnson.
Bruce Sisson, I'm the State Director for the U.S. Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship.
Welcome, Rachel.
I'm Diane with Iowa Workforce Development.
And I'm Dee Vanderhoff, representing business. You want to start over here with Deb?
Sure. Deb Ostrom, and I'm with Iowa Workforce Development, in charge of a grant that I'm going to be speaking to.
Kelly Taylor, Workforce Development Bureau, Chief of Financial Management.
Paul Michelson, IWD Chief Financial Officer.
Gary Bateman, Chief Information Officer.
Carrie Coons, Communications Director, Workforce Development.
Lori Adams, I'm the Division Administrator for Workforce Services, Iowa Workforce Development.
Mary Lee Woods, Iowa Workforce Development Bureau Chief for Field Operations.
And I'm Barbara Ball. I'm Assistant Manager for Workforce.
Mike Wilkinson, Division Administrator for Unemployment Insurance Services.
Sue Becky, Senate Democratic Research Staff.
Ken Holmes, Legislative Services Agency.
Morning, I'm Dick Freeman. I'm with Experience Works.
Julie will produce the administrator, living market information.
Michael Morrow, Iowa Labor Commissioner.
Thank you. Anyone on the phone? Introduce yourself, please.
I'm State Representative Ron Jorgensen from Sioux City.
Thank you. Anyone else on the line? not establish quorums, so we will assume the agenda is okay at this point. Does anyone have anything that they would like added on it? Okay, thank you. We'll jump down there then to promised jobs update, if you would please, Teresa.
Well, we sent out Monday, and I believe we sent all of you a copy of the statewide promised jobs analysis that we had started last around September. And the information you received is the all of the metrics as to how they relate to the efficiency of the delivery systems that we use here in Iowa for that particular program. It was really helpful, I think, not only for us, but also for DHS to, after many years, do this type of analysis. And as with anything, we found some areas were excelling, some areas need some help on some of the metrics as to how you measure the proficiency of the program. The main goal, obviously, is to do this was really to get an assessment of how much money, how much of the federal money are we really getting to the participant in the form of training or assistance, some form of connecting participants with jobs and helping them eliminate barriers in their life so that we can move them off of the welfare roles and into the job roles. So we did learn a lot of things, not only about the program itself, but really about how each group within our state worked differently in delivering that system. We have 4 different models as far as who the providers are. One group of providers are the community colleges. One group of providers are the COGS, the Council of Governments. We have a community action agency in one area, and then we do have one area that the agency itself does the delivery of the promised job program. So obviously they vary a little, and that's normal as far as how they deliver the systems to the people. We also did an analysis on caseloads and supervisory things within the cost allocation process, and of course that was all geared toward, again, understanding how we can improve all of our delivery systems to get more of the money to the actual participant. Starting next week, we will be on the road because my commitment to meet with every region and every service delivery organization is now on our calendar, and I think for 2.5 weeks or 3, we'll either be above or windshield, so we'll be out on the road, and we have meetings set up in each one of the areas. So each region has their regional specific information that we have accumulated. I have not sent those reports out because we're just in the final version of comparative analysis and printing their reports with the statewide. So some regions are better than the statewide analysis, some regions are not as good as, and so this is just a process of continuous improvement as we go through and analyze the program. So one of the concerns that has been out in the state generally is to the degree that any kind of analysis that we do impacts people or impacts the existing contract, certainly providers want to know that. And our contract with the providers ends on June 30th. And so 2 weeks ago or so, maybe a week ago, I sent out a note in conjunction with Director Palmer that we've just extended that existing contract 60 days because we don't want to
get into a calendar issue after we've gone through all this analysis. So just for the convenience of all of us, including the providers, we just extended the existing contract 60 days. So that takes it out to the end of August. So we're under contract until at least the end of August. And we'll go through these analysis sessions and answer everybody's questions as to what the numbers are telling us. I've always said that this is not necessarily to change a relationship between the provider and IWD. It's an opportunity to understand a distribution system of services better and figure out ways to do it more efficiently. We also have, and I think I've shared this with everybody, we also have some collective bargaining issues that we intend to hopefully resolve as we go through the process of the next contract. The next contract by DHS has not been signed yet, but it is in the final writing stages. We will also, in each of these meetings, be sharing what we know is going to change in the contract that we have with DHS, and then collectively what our contract is with any subcontractors. So we're not holding back any of that information, and some of the changes actually in the new contract are results of investigations that we've had to have, or improvements on controls that this cost efficiency study told us we needed perhaps to have improved controls in some areas and reporting. And so we will also be sharing that information when we go out to each one of the regions. So in the next 2 weeks, they'll have 99% of what the contract changes are. And I don't know what the other 1% are, but I'm not writing the contract. So anyway, something with whoever is writing the contract. But Director Palmer and I have agreed on all these, so it's no secret the areas where we have to have some improvements. So that's where we're at with that process. So I wanted to be sure that at the same time we sent the statewide analysis out to each one of the regions, that the state board also had the same analysis sent out to each one of you folks. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on that statewide analysis. I think the first thing that's really important is to know and to feel confident about the fact that we're meeting all the federal metrics of the program. So that's obviously the first and most important thing. But as you all know, when you have different groups of organizations, some do certain areas better than others, and so those are the kinds of things we're going to share with the regions as we go out visit with each one. So, Sally?
I have a couple of questions. I did ask Kelly about this. I saw in your letter about the 15% reduction in governmental costs through Governor Grinstead's governorship. I think we've more than done 15% within the workforce development department, and we closed a lot of offices, and I don't know what savings that we gained from that, but my feeling is we have really done more than our 15%, and you probably have thoughts about that. So I need to have you help me understand that, and I have to be really honest with all of you. I am very opposed to reducing our promised jobs in the rural area. In particular, Northeast Iowa is a very large region, and we serve a lot of people up there. But then I also am an economic development director, and I have new companies in like Oline that are trying to hire, and we're trying to get help from some of the promised job areas. So the reduction to me would be frightful, and I'm just really being honest about that. I think that we have done a lot of reduction in the rural areas, but I would hate to see this one happen.
You know, to answer your question, Sally, first of all, as you might guess, there's at least 2 or 3 different ways salaries that I know the administration is measuring for their 15%. And through whatever their measurement or metric is, I believe that as far as the state is concerned, we have, yes, met or exceeded that 15% goal. Our challenge is really going forward is that we have the federal challenge as well, which at least matches 15 or more percent as far as funding levels. And so I don't believe that the governor has any expectations from the agency that there will be any further changes as far as the state administrative piece. But we all know we have to get under the federal administrative piece, and so that's what we're kind of wrestling with right now. I know he hasn't signed the appropriation yet, but I believe that he has a 30-day window, and I think there are plans that will come shortly. So I'm sure he'll sign whatever passed out of Congress. So I'm pretty confident with that. As far as the promised jobs and reducing anything in rural with promised jobs, it's been our understanding with DHS that funding level is remained fairly constant. So I think that at least for next year, since we only get these federal funds once a year, I think that the numbers we are working with for their projection are relatively the same level. And so I don't anticipate that there will be that kind of a need to significantly change monies that are out in rural areas. That's not part of our plan, just so. And I think that probably Director Palmer would have already notified us if those TANF funds are going to be significantly changed. But when we extended the contract for 60 days, we did use the funding levels from last year to make sure that everything just stayed consistent until we at least got through the efficiency report. So now I think what you'll see is there might be some changes as how people supervise people, or how many caseloads one person has versus another, and those kinds of, and controls on being accountable for the money. But I don't anticipate that due to this kind of a study that there's any change with the funding level.
I would really appreciate that.
I think that's fair statement to say. But we will start to see changes because we'll obviously want to optimize things and suggest that with our contracts. And we obviously really do have a goal to resolve these collective bargaining issues that we know we have. And so that will all happen probably in the next 30 to 60 days as well before we start in with a new 2-year contract with DHS. Any other questions on Tom's job?
Director, if I could just kind of follow up on the salary. Sure. Was talking about in our rural areas, training with promised job, the funding for the training still going to be there, because that's what we're hearing. At least that's what I'm hearing. Is that the people are there, the bodies are there, but they're just not, they don't have a training to do the jobs that are coming. And I'm curious, is the funding going to be there for that? And of course, I think probably Kelly can answer that. Is it going to be state funding, or is it federal funding, or is it split between DHS and IWD? And see Kelly Lewis going already, and knows going to be able to answer that. And the other thing that's comes into my mind is, how are we taking all these partners and working them in conjunction with the apprenticeship programs coming out of the building trade unions and the apprenticeship programs that the Careers Department can offer. That we can get these people, I mean, they're there, the bodies are there. A couple of years ago, I know the number being tossed around was like 5,000 skilled workers. We were building all these wind power plants, but we didn't have people fix them. They broke down. I know we're getting somewhere close to that through training. Is there going to be a way that we can enhance that program of training in rural these online, we can get them to people they need, the skills.
I think the way I would answer that is we have both state and federal funds to assist with that training. I believe that to the extent that I know our Wagner-Pfizer is remaining relatively constant, the WIA funds are going to be challenging because we don't have that. We have some analysis from the National Governors Association as to where the funding levels for that program are. But we have, in conjunction with community colleges and our own granting process, have applied for some new training dollars as far as to see if we can add more training dollars from perhaps where we are today. We don't have the answer to that, but I know that just this morning we were reading through and participating with community colleges on some grant proposal they're going to turn in next week, and it's all about training for jobs like welding and CNC operators and those kinds of things. And then that's the middle skill that we're talking about. I think, Greg, to answer part of your question, you are also going to see more definition in our middle skills report that we sent out that hasn't gone public yet. It will on Monday because we wanted to just share it here first and have you folks look at it first. But I think it clearly shows, and I know Sally and I have discussed this and others, I think the data, the metrics clearly show we have the unskilled people and we have the middle skilled jobs. And obviously what you're talking about is exactly on point. It's the training to get it to the unskilled people so we can get some skills training to fill the jobs that we know we already have. I know that the governor is going to announce some new projects that incorporate more training and more access to middle skill sets and how we need to train more for that, because obviously you can't grow jobs if you don't have people to put in the jobs. So it's really not a chicken and egg thing. It really is an educational thing. So I think as we move forward and as WIA settles down a bit, we will know more clearly what the dollars are. But I think in our budget, Kelly, we think we're very current with what the existing projections are on the WIA side. And so for promised jobs, I think we have the training money. I think the challenge is we should find more training money that we can focus particularly on the middle skill levels. And we'll talk about some things that are starting to move on that end as well. So I can tell you, I know that we're working with community colleges. I know they are working to define middle skills as well and change their curriculum as time goes on, because the curriculum they might have had 10 years ago is different than the curriculum that we need today for these middle skill jobs. So that training is occurring. Now I can also share, and probably you're the best one, Lori, to share the integration and Greer with some of these grants that we have been working on and integrating apprenticeship. Lori, can you share for the board the apprenticeship integration, not only in our training delivery model, but I know you and Greer have had some interfaces with proposed grants and how we can advance the apprenticeship model through that.
It's really quite simple. I think because Greer and I have always had a message that apprenticeship is always part of the menu of training options that should be available to any customer coming into our center, whether that is a promised jobs client or a dislocated worker or a veteran. And so the message, we've done ongoing training. I know Greer was just recently attended the WI directors meeting, wasn't that last week, earlier this month. And so we've just integrated that as it's, and we've promoted it, for example, to the veterans, because a veteran can use their GI benefit as part of the apprenticeship training model. And it's an approvable training in every facet of what we do. So we've tried to make it just be a routine option that's available to people, although it's far from a routine opportunity. But we are trying to make it become part of the vernacular and something that's something that people can choose.
Now, the other thing, we're going to be pushing pretty hard the NCRC certification training at the various levels of certification with business. And of course, that really applies to areas of advanced manufacturing and the biosciences and the green energy things and some of your examples with the wind energy and that sort of thing. And as Laura says, part of what we're doing with this on the business side of things is getting more businesses adapted into the apprenticeship program. The example I'll give you is just during the last month, we've been working in the Northwest corridor on the food processing segment of our economy, and several of those companies have given us some definitions of what they need for these middle skilled workers, which we of course have shared with Greer, and I think you have some new companies now that have started up like Meridian and some others too.
Yeah, they've contacted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the challenges I think with the businesses is it comes down to the knowledge about apprenticeship is very hard with the staff to make sure that that gets out that they can do that, and two, any kind of funding that might assist the director to the employer, which is really limited. The employer pays for all of the costs right now for apprenticeship practically. I mean, there is some dollars out there in QCCF funding, but that's really limited on the employers that did that. We're in the process right now, we just picked up 20 new companies, we're gonna have all of John Deere. And one of the things is, and I shared with Gail, the letter from the UAW rep, is there anything that can help them as well? So we just picked, so that's 7, plus McLaughlin, Casey, Holland. So the programs you're hearing about it are out there, but there's nothing that we're saying there's training dollars, which I thought that was something that we were going to talk about as a board too, because that is actually training and direct employment. And so it has both of those aspects in there, but they're kind of just left out completely. And even in the grant that you mentioned, it doesn't include registered apprenticeship. It's just training.
Right.
It's a lot of training.
Right.
In hopes that they get employed.
Right. And I think I'm not at liberty to talk about all the initiatives just yet because I know the governor's coming out with some specific announcements, but I think you'll see in some of those how we have pretty publicly started to marry apprenticeship in with a way for funding that takes some of the burden off of the company and allows the potential employee to access training, and the employee won't have to necessarily pay for it, nor will the business, which of course falls directly into how we get people into that apprenticeship process, because then you really have taken the risk and the burden away from business to get the training for those. So
Right.
I'll be interested to, when I can talk a little more and visit with you.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. I mean, because that's one of the things that I talk about a lot. And when I actually feel like I'm not representing apprenticeship as much as I'm representing all the employers and organizations who fall into apprenticeship to say that not only do they do the training and the individuals are getting schooling and or college education, they're getting the employment as well.
Correct.
We are, we're gonna run a pilot project ourselves this year to make, not only do we have to get the training to the people, we have to get the people to the training. I mean, that's the other half that we have to get some of these people off the couch. That's just all there is to it. And welding, our apprenticeship, we pride ourselves on being the best there is when it comes to the welding. But we're trying we can mend the broken heart and the crack of dawn, that's our model, that's what we can fix. But we're in the process of the pilot with DMAC this year. And we're going to see how this plays out to actually you're gonna come out with your associate's degree now out of our apprenticeship. We're running a grant the first time, just to see if it'll go or not, and then after the grant money's gone, the first year that we're trying it, we're gonna see if we can't pick up the cost to hire these community college DMAC to come down and actually give us a couple of courses each week when these apprentices are in class. So when they're walking out with an associate's degree, at least they're gaining something, not only a skilled trade, but to have a degree in their pocket, I think is a plus. It's a plus. It's to show people that, hey, we're willing to go the extra mile to push you along a little bit more, and I would hope you would take full advantage of it.
And if you can help get them off the couch and not be absent
Right.
when they finally get to that point, wouldn't that be nice?
Well, I would really be interested in, as your pilot goes forward, in what suggestions you have on either side of that aisle, whether it's getting the people in or getting the training done, that you'll obviously learn a lot from that pilot, and so if you can share
I
what
will.
you get through it, I'm really interested in how to accelerate that process.
Well, I'm in the beginning stages, so don't ask me anything yet, but I'm fully
That's
aware
fair.
that I'm gonna
That's
have some
fair.
answers for you as soon as we
That's
get going
great.
with college.
Yeah, that's
You know, our
great.
apprenticeship's worth 54 college credits itself. We needed 12 more, I believe. It's 60,
Yeah.
is that right? 64?
That's about that,
60
yeah.
associates, I believe. And, I mean, if we're that close, why not go ahead and
Right.
finish it off?
That's a great idea.
Hopefully it works.
Yeah, good.
I like the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I got plenty of that.
I want to go back and maybe clarify something that, in Greg's questions about promise jobs and training. I want to make sure that the board understands that the money, IWD gets in our promise jobs contract with DHS is essentially a staffing grant. It doesn't pay for training that is provided to the promise jobs participants. So if they're getting their GED or going to a welding course or it's primarily short-term training, but that comes out of TANF funds that are held at the Department of Human Services. So we'll submit bills, requests for that. That does not come out of the allocation that we receive. I think that's kind of an important thing to note, that it's not, if you hear that we're getting $15 million, it's $15 million to run the case management part of the program.
But we haven't, additionally, we haven't heard that any of the training dollars that DHS has for those bills and expenses.
No, and I'm still waiting to hear back because their appropriation bill was also passed last week, and they are required in their contract to tell me what my appropriation is within 2 weeks, and they haven't. The person that needs to tell me that isn't available, and I just sent her another note and said, clock's ticking. How much money are we talking about? Because that again is a staffing grant, and it impacts our ability to deliver the services in the rural areas that Sally mentioned. So I just thought that was important to clarify, especially since we have a new board member. Good to know. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
Now, the next board meeting, I'll be happy to share with you how the meetings have gone in each one of the regions and how those discussions have played out and kind of where we're at again, because we will then be probably into a new contract process.
Are those all scheduled and you know when you're going to be?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Lisa knows when I'm going to be. I just get in the car in the morning and point it in the direction.
One thing at a time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The director on the, I got this after you and I had put an email back and forth. So as I review, I am curious as to, and as you know, where we stand on the management to staff ratio on page 3.
Yes.
I think that's going to be
Significantly different.
let's hope so. We
Yep.
have 5 managers to 2 workers. That's
Just not right.
that's a little out of line.
Yep.
The one thing that really seemed to hit me after I read this, after we talked, was that there's doesn't seem to be any performance measure at a local level. So this is the first time in forever, I think, that we've never done this for this DHS, promise jobs a whole bit. And what really bothers me is that we have to come in on a statewide level, partner with DHS, and do this, and when we do it, there's no, the thing we find out is there's no accountability at the local level.
Well, that's been our concern as we see pockets of outcomes that happen when you don't have any accountability at the local levels. And so clearly in the new contract, there are going to be accountability measures. There are going to be quality control measures at the local level. And we are going to ask for some metrics around and how many people did you place in a job, because that question has also not been one of the metrics, and obviously that's the nature of this program. We ought to be measuring how well we, not only how well do we train somebody and help them get rid of their barriers, but how successful are we at putting our customers in a job after we go through that training. And so those will be some new metrics that we add. But on the quality control side, we're definitely going to be adding local accountability. We are going to be, we have a group that's set up to do more quality control, or maybe the first round of quality control, addressing local issues of accountability when the metrics aren't there. It's interesting because the metrics that that DHS has to report back to the feds, I kind of view those as maybe the 50,000-foot metrics, and you really need to peel that onion back to make sure that, think of how much better we might be doing if every single region we're hitting metrics along the way, to perhaps have our general report even better on the federal side. So you're absolutely right. Everything you're digesting with that report is what we digested as we were going through the study itself.
Well, these local reports, I mean, I keep hearing Welding. So having someone have some history in this, you know, you got to have it fabricated before you can weld the two pieces together. You know, so there's a whole chain. And when you get done, you got a painter and whatever. And I guess one of the things that really bothered me as I thought about this with the local areas is what is the number one job aspect that is in that area. Some areas are manufacturing, some areas are food processing, some areas are microbiology, whatever. What food production, food processing, each area has its own little niche. And when we get into this accounting, I'd recommend that they list what they're doing in their area. Now, if I train 100 machinists, and there's no machines, there's no product for them to make, what use is it? They pack it up and go into wherever. What do I need to keep it handy? So get these people in these areas off the couch and get doing the job that the employers, and then that's going to bring the employer.
Correct. You're just connecting all the dots, because of course the next topic I was going to talk about is STEM, which is the Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics Initiative. If I could just, because they're so closely connected.
We'll just move on to that next one and we'll wrap it together.
Yeah.
And then we have someone from the board also to help report.
No, I'm a STEM board member.
Oh.
I think that's what.
That's what they're trying to say. Okay.
But in this initiative, and Greg, to your point, one of the things that our agency delivers to the STEM initiative is the research and data behind, here's where the skilled people are, here's where the skilled jobs are, and they may or may not be matching. So for instance, we have the capability through Jude Shop to say, all right, let's take advanced manufacturing, for example. We have the data throughout the state of Iowa, and we've done this map that says And here's where the available labor is for advanced manufacturing. And you can par that down even further, obviously, to the south. And then we can overlay on that map the map of, and here's where the jobs are. And so we can pretty clearly see the mismatch, whether it be advanced manufacturing or applied sciences or finance and insurance or food production or any of the sectors that the department, that the Economic Development Authority is trying to expand and grow jobs in. We can tell them and tell our STEM committee, we have this mismatch in Ida Grove as an example, because we know there's these jobs and we know there's no people there that have the basic skill sets to start in those kinds of middle skill job levels. So the challenge then becomes to the STEM group. All right, so our educational process has to get people in the right location with the right background where the jobs are located. So it does me no good to have a great bulk of food production people in Lee County when all the jobs are up in Northwest Iowa, because we don't have a train that goes between the two. And so we are dissecting this by sector and by region. We're actually have an effort underway with each one of our regional managers throughout the state to help their process as well, to say, tell us what you think your sectors are in each one of your regions, so we can match that up with what we're working on with the Economic Development Authority for what they think the sectors are in those particular regions. So then we can also marry that up with the educational process for those regional options for people. So we're gathering the data to actually demonstrate where we have a mismatch, and we do have mismatches. So we are just beginning to do that. But part of STEM is to understand that match or to understand the gap, and then to change the educational process to eliminate the gap. Obviously, part of the way STEM is working right now is to start at very young ages to have students interested in these fields, so as they progress through their learning opportunities, they start molding the basic proficiencies that you have to have in these kinds of jobs. And the 6 projects that we selected in the 6 areas, STEM hubs. The STEM hubs are also participating with workforce development in our certification process, with the community colleges in their certification process. So we really are, I think, linking, like it's never been linked before, the educational process with the job requirements out there. And they're very different by region, because their industries are very different by region. And so we're trying to really understand the uniqueness of the economic development regions partnered with the workforce regions as to how do you deliver the skilled employee to match up with the openings of the sector that we're hoping to grow in that area.
And I would say too, just as a member of that advisory council as well, that not only are we looking at the kid aspect, how to get those kids from K-12 through college level, but the people who need jobs now, because they can quickly go through a program, take advantage of the community colleges or the certifications, and be prepared for those jobs. But there's a lot of, I won't say animosity, but I think just the misunderstanding of what STEM means. You have to be a mathematician or a scientist, or no, actually you need to be able to run a machine at one of these biotech facilities. You need to be able to do some highly technical but very easily trainable jobs. And so part of the, I guess, challenge of that STEM Council is saying it's not just the kids. While that is absolutely, a main component, it's also what can we do now so we can fill these jobs that currently exist, not 6 years from now.
Right.
So
one of the interesting things is, as an example, in working with Meridian up there around Storm Lake, they have decided as a company that they need to, they have added a trainer on their payroll that trains in the welding area. And of course, Iowa Central is their kind of general area for a community college. They have welding courses. But there's more than one company. There's obviously several companies that need that kind of skill set. But the challenge for Meridian was that their corporate headquarters is ready to expand. They want to expand the plant in Iowa, but they couldn't get welders in the front door. So they're not going to expand because they can hardly keep existing operations open with people that have the proficiency they need. So we've been working with them, and they have figured out that we can do and help them in getting applicants to their door that have proficiencies. They're not a welder, but they have the capability of learning that kind of vocation. So that then when the company goes and trains for their welding course, whatever their welding course is specific to their company, they at least know that the people coming in have some basic aptitudes, like know how to read a ruler, and some of those skills that are easily trainable, but not necessarily everybody has who wants to get into that opportunity. And they've just started this. Now, I can tell you they had a job fair where they've been very unsuccessful at getting applicants, and they had a job fair where they had over 100 people come to their facility and tour the plant and take some of these credentialing assessments and pre-tests. And we visit with them almost every Friday, and they're telling us now they have all their welding needs met, and they are going to add a new shift and then expand the plant. So their owner, who happens to be a Canadian owner, is now actually pursuing investing in the plant in Storm Lake to expand the opportunity. Now, their company, and it's a whole sector of this advanced manufacturing, it's really interesting because their business formula of their product, their widget, is they do a lot of widgets for the oil industry. And of course, the oil industry is booming in North Dakota. So the reason it's so important for this particular geography of the state of Iowa is because the transportation is relatively minimal between these areas and North Dakota. So while North Dakota doesn't necessarily have all the widgets they need, which are oil containers and transportation vehicles and things like that, that all need welding to put them together. That's the opportunity of expansion that this company had and almost had to turn down because we couldn't get that labor supply readily going into that front door. So the company had to change fairly significantly in how they thought about how you bring in people and what kind of training opportunities to give to people. And also, the workforce and the assessment of the workforce into that company had to change fairly significantly as well. So that's been really interesting to watch and to participate in over the last 12 months. I know they're pretty happy with where they're at, and I know Ed, you have a regular conversation with them. But I think it's just one example of what we have to do in these selective industries all throughout the state of Iowa.
You know, we have the academy in Ojai, the regional academy for math and science, and it's evolved. It's evolved with students within the high school, but it's also evolved because we have a new industry who's having trouble with their painting. So it brought the college brought a simulator in, and they're training at the regional academy right now. So we're doing a whole retinue of things within that academy, and so I think, you know, there are a lot of things we can do to help these industries to do a better job.
I think a key though is using common data sets, because, and I was looking at that same grant, and the question that popped out to me was when I looked at the map of Iowa and the community college districts and the type of offerings they had, I was thinking, well, what really is available labor pool in that area for, you know, investing in some of those kinds of activities. So if everybody's using common data to drive strategies as opposed to developing strategies and then looking at data later, I think it's a much more efficient use of resources.
They are using a lot of the Molinissen's data underlying. I don't know that it's yet underlying their development of curriculum in the community college system, but I do know it's our underlying data from Follow Shop and Workforce that's defining where the labor supply is. That would have to feed into what those curricula are for that they're defining in the grant.
More questions, comments? This excites me that we are getting to the nitty gritty of what really has to happen. And the people see it and are working forward towards that. Have we any new people on the line, the phone end? I guess not. All right. So we will move down to Deb Ostrom and our State Energy Sector Partnership overview. And in your package you have some material